Hey, welcome back to the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. And today we have Tut's Treasures, Hidden Secrets. Disney has a good amount of National Geographic documentaries that involve pharaohs and I think King Tut and just pyramids galore and tombs everywhere to be rated. This one's from 2018. It's actually a series. It's only 3 episodes long. They're about 45 minutes each. So yeah, it's one season. I don't know if they're going to be a second season or if we're certainly not in the middle of a 2018 season. But it tells us it's basically an examination of the boy king, as he's often called, at a time when they're putting together literally pretty much everything they've ever brought out of that tomb and putting it in one place at the Great Egyptian Museum, I think in Egypt, somewhere in Egypt. I'm not sure exactly where, but they're building. This is showing them, in a sense, the centerpiece. The centerpiece is pretty much everything, for the most part, of Tutankhamun's burial treasure. When you know the story pretty much about how pharaohs, when they're buried, they tend to take a lot of stuff with them so they can have food and servants and weapons and everything else in the afterlife in case they need to go to war or have servants feed them food, dead servants feeding them rotten food. That obviously does not stay pretty well after a time. And of course, they're mummified, so they're well preserved. But you know, it's a lot of superstition, and that's just the way people thought back then. So, but what we think about Tutankhamun now is the idea that he was a sickly boy king who got his the throne at age 9, and then lived the rest of his life until he died mysteriously, very young. In reality, he died when he was 19, and a lot of the examination using more modern technology shows that he, at age 19, he was probably far from sickly. Again, there's still evidence that shows that maybe he was malaria or some other disease. He may have been hit in the back of the head with a rock. Some people, from all the examination of these items, some which have never been brought out and seen by anybody who can examine them since 1922, when the tomb was first opened. Howard Carter, I believe, was the guy who opened everything else. It's some of the stuff in here is astounding, and again, this is stuff that's from a tomb. It's not just like a Egyptian warehouse where they're just like, hey, this is where we're going to keep all the weapons and chariots and stuff. This is stuff that was buried with a dead guy. So he's got actual chariots. He has bows, elaborate, beautifully carved bows, endless amounts of arrows, beds and toys and all sorts of different items that would have been worth something to him in his life, and so much of it is covered in gold or is gold. One of the most, before I get to that, honestly, if you're not into documentaries and you don't care anything about Egypt, you're not going to really be into this thing at all. But if you do like exploration and archaeology and the idea that maybe the things we think aren't exactly what we thought, now that we have better science, better better tools to examine things scientifically, there's some crazy stuff that we're learning. And I only watched one episode. I didn't see what the other two were like. I don't know if I get a chance, I'll check them out maybe. But for the most part, it wasn't super interesting to me. I grew up in the whole revival of the of the Tutankhamun discovery, even though 1922 was well before my time. In the late 70s, everybody was making a big deal about King Tut. because they were bringing his treasures to the U.S. and Nixon was involved, and then President Carter. It took a tour of like 6 cities: Chicago, L.A., New York, Washington D.C. And it was a big to do, and that's the only reason why I know anything about King Tut at all, because they made a big deal about it in school, and of course on Saturday Night Live, Steve Martin had a song called King Tut. Look it up on YouTube for you youngins, and if you don't know who Steve Martin is or King Tut. But it was, he made a silly song that pretty much lambasted the idea that, hey, this isn't about history or, anything else. It's about making a buck. And pretty much that's what a lot of the people who were investing in this pretty much made a good pile of money off all the King Tut souvenirs. So yeah, it's neither here nor there. But the idea is that there's still excitement and intrigue when it comes to the life and death of King Tut, King Tutankhamun. There's a chance that he may have died in battle. So many of his objects depict in hieroglyphics and artwork and elaborately detailed artwork of battles happening to the south and battles to the north, battles from the west. This, the Libyans, the Africans and the Hittites and everybody coming at him from every direction. So he may have had a kind of a life where his kingdom was being threatened at all times, or it could have been just an elaborate thing to make him look cool. Like, hey, look at this warrior guy, and he's really just sitting sick in bed all the time. You don't know. But as these people, these scientists, are scanning these things, making elaborate recreations, and just looking at this thing, even using like X-rays and things like that, to a degree of seeing things in a whole new light, in a depth that is just astounding. It's kind of great. It's amazing to see. One of the things I'm going to spoil for you in this is that there's a humongous mystery about the knife that was found on his body when he was excavated, when they opened the tomb, and in his sarcophagus there was a knife, and just the hilt was elaborate, just gold everywhere, and a rock crystal end to it. But the blade is the big thing. The blade was something that was really interesting. It was made of iron, and now while iron is no big deal, we see it's abundant in our modern era. Back then, iron was rarer than gold. I mean, they had gold out the wazoo everywhere, but iron is something completely different. And this iron, in their examinations, is like, well, where could this have come from? Did it come from another nation? Did someone give it to him? Did it travel from east, west, far away? No, it came from outer space. The gods sent it to him, or at least that's probably what he believed at the time. And the details behind this are extraordinary. Somebody, after more than likely a meteorite crashed, and somebody then crafted chunks of this meteorite, which contain iron and nickel and things like that, but a great amount of, I think they said nickel, but it was iron for the most part, and crafted a weapon unlike anything else that anybody had use of at that time. So, to me, that was like the big revelation. They built it up and had a commercial break, and it was exciting. But so if you're into this kind of thing, check it out. There's a lot to learn, and honestly, it's the museum itself that is probably finished by now, but it has a laboratory that has people examining these artifacts over and over again in new ways to learn as much as they can about it, and that's pretty freaking cool. So anyway, let's pick tomorrow's episode.
55.
Oh, 55. Well, it's dropping way down. Okay, I don't know what this is. Oh, I think I kind of know what it is. But it's a series, so we'll probably watch 1 or 2 episodes and see how it goes. I think it might be one of their Spanish language series. And if it's not on here for some reason, I'll be back in a second to tell you what we're going to pick next. But we're going to take a shot at watching Bia. Bia on the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. So I'll see you back here tomorrow with Bia. See you then.